Pull-ups are hard. The reason people do pull-ups like these, which are not pull-ups, is because they're easier. If you do a pull-up and you let your lats fully stretch out and your arms fully relax and you're hanging, and you do that in between each rep, pull-ups get infinitely more difficult. But why? Essentially, it's more difficult because of this concept of activation energy. That is the amount of energy that's required to initiate the action. It takes more energy to start the movement from the full stretch rather than keep the movement going from the midway point, or it takes more energy to start a car than it does to keep the car going. This is the reason that most people aren't doing pull-ups with good form, but my theory is that this is the reason why most people are procrastinating. And I want to document a theory that I have that I think solves this problem. So the actual thing I wanted to talk about in this video is what I'm dealing with as I'm filming this video. This is our energy. When it comes to procrastination, this is the amount of energy we think it's going to require to do a task. If we can make ourselves think it's not going to take this much energy, but it's going to take this much energy, then we'll do the task. This is such good coffee. Jeez. So just a few hours ago today, while I was trying to film this video, I ended up spending probably close to almost 2 hours sitting in a chair and just watching YouTube. I knew that I needed to film a video, but I couldn't get myself to do it, which is like low-key embarrassing because it's the topic of the video. But I realized my opportunity, which is that starting to film seemed like such a monumental task. But the reason that it seemed like such a monumental task is because I didn't actually know what I was filming. I had literally in the script, it's labeled broken story. I had a broken story, these bullet listed points to film and talk about, but I didn't actually know where I'm gonna shoot everything. I didn't actually know the shots that I wanted to get. In my mind, this task of filming became so large, so intimidating, that it stopped me from filming. And this really hones in on the point of the theory, which is that when a task is ambiguous, when it's unclear what the next steps are, that causes that massive spike in perceived energy it's going to take to start the task. I didn't know the next steps for filming, and so that was just enough to keep me in that comfortable chair watching YouTube for over an hour, for almost 2 hours. So I gained clarity on what I was gonna film, and it not only became easier to film, but I got excited to film. So the thing that I was previously procrastinating minutes before gaining clarity on it became exciting to film right after. Clearly, I have found this to be true in my own life. The cure to procrastination is gaining clarity. Specifically, gaining clarity about what's important and next steps. Leaving work for the last time before Italy. Dude, no more work for like the next 10 days. That's crazy. Weirdly enough, before I go on big trips like this, I start to get kind of introspective. Like kind of before I go on big trips, while I'm on big trips, when I get back from big trips, I start to think a lot about death, which is actually part of the subject of the video that I'm filming in Italy, so stay tuned for that. But I think that brings up a good point too, which is that death brings the ultimate clarity. Alex Hormozi talks about, he thinks the best entrepreneurs are those who can connect what they are doing in light of their inevitable death the closest. Death strips everything in your life down to what's truly important. What's more important than the opinions of the people around you, what's more important than even what your own ego says is important. It strips it down to its base value, everything in your life. Understanding what's ultimately important helps give you direction, helps give you, in some sense, purpose. Once you have a destination, it's then possible to break down what you must do next. And this principle is something that I want to extrapolate and apply into the minutia of our everyday thoughts, goals, patterns, habits. But I need to get home because I need to pack. Dude, going to Italy in 2 days? That's crazy. And this is the ultimate hack that I found, which is that if you gain clarity on the task and the next steps, it completely kills any uncertainty about what you should do, and then you can just get on with doing the thing.
I think that's done.
And this concept is applicable when it comes to the macro view of seeing your life through the light of your inevitable death and gaining clarity about your life that way. And in the micro view, in the minutia, like this example where as soon as I broke down the barrier, if you remember that graph, of the perceived amount of energy it was going to take to start the task, it instantly became easy to do. It turned from procrastination to excitement. But I got to get some packing done. So I want to clarify that this is me documenting the process. This is something that I have actually ran into: procrastination, petty anxiety about going to Starbucks to do a work session or something like that. And I have found that it has generally all been a lack of clarity. Clarity is like one of the biggest hacks that I have found. That's one of the primary missions of this channel, is to document the process of me learning and building myself for people who are like me, creatives, entrepreneurs, people who seek truth. The idea that clarity forces action, or at least makes taking action infinitely easier, from what I found, is a constantly true principle. It's something that I have to relearn because every time it applies. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm excited for the next couple to come. Well, by the time this goes out, I might even be back from my trip. Glory to Jesus Christ, to the Son of the living God. Thank you for watching.